basically 11-year-olds and some 12-year-olds. And they said that if the show helped bring in some, the 12s and maybe some 13s, that it would be a great success to them, and that they didn't expect anybody over that age to look at it because it was about 15-year-olds and kids want to look up, which I totally agreed with. And we all felt the same, that kids look up and they, when they're 15, they look up to 18 or 18, they always look to older. So we were all stunned a year later when the Nielsen's came out, the Nielsen ratings, and we looked at that pie, which describes who the audience is, and we discovered that 1/3, it was the record audience for Nickelodeon, the highest rated, largest audience of any drama they had produced to date. Now they've gone on, and I don't know the ratings record since then, but at the time it was the highest rated drama on Nickelodeon. And the audience consisted of 1/3 2 to 11-year-olds, 1/3 12 to 17-year-olds, and 1/3 18 and up, which went up to their 50s and older. So we had truly a family audience with about a third. So that was a great surprise to us. And I guess the success of the show is part of what drove them to have this voracious appetite. And the next person that we're going to get to interview is the gentleman who was the head writer on this, Ian Weir, who created these wonderful characters. And we just had the opportunity to hear Robin Ross describe Brooke and how the writer kept finding new dimensions to sort of her mean character, her evil character, which was just one of the dimensions that was explored in the writing.
Just one more question before we wrap this up. Many of the actors, in the cast, were first-time actors, never had any experience before. And would you share with us, as the show creator and director and producer, how to work with first-time actors and turn them from amateurs into professionals?
Now, that's a big one. That's a big question. I'll try to answer it as briefly as I can. First of all, we had a variety of actors in there. Somebody who influenced me a great deal was Norman Lear, and taught me that don't just look for the, quote, natural, spontaneous new actor, which I had a proclivity for that earlier in my career. And I said, go to the agencies because you may find some really good actors who are also spontaneous and natural and have that. So I did. So a number of the actors in the cast, a third to half, were already trained, like Laura Harris and Robin Ross. So I don't take credit for developing them. But I think my approach to the casting before then and after has always been the same, and that is to try to find actors with whatever experience they have, whether it's none or a great deal of experience, but who perform, who I feel fit the character, and who I've seen through auditions and callbacks and screen tests and enough times that I'm convinced that they are they already have that character. They either are that character or they have the capability to be there. And so I really try to do it in the casting so that once cast, I believe that the most successful direction is to get out of the way of the actor and to let them take over. And not every director feels that. And of course, if I feel that they've wandered way off the path into the pasture and are off somewhere where we don't want it, well, I would say something. But that didn't happen. It's more, my conviction is that if you cast them right and let them go, they will do surprisingly good things. And I did try to create an environment on the set which was safe and which protected them, and I was the only one who would talk to, in the sense that, so they weren't getting a lot of things shouted at them either through a PA system or by makeup, or they knew how I felt about that. People or sound or anybody else. That we tried to create a space where they could literally have fun. And I think that's why they did a lot of their best work in take one. It was very interesting to see that when we did need to do additional takes for whatever reasons, some of them, even a number of them, had trouble with take 2 or 3 or 4, and you got beyond 2 or 3 with a cast that's that mixed in terms of experience and less experience. You just don't want to shoot a lot of takes, and so they got very competitive about being able to do their takes in one. And if we needed to do a rehearsal take that was with dialogue, which we generally did not do, we would record it. We would tape it, and sometimes even get our best material in the rehearsal take. I'm getting a little bit technical, but one of the things I want to say about someone like Ryan Reynolds, who was a natural talent, in my opinion, and who had walked in there as a football player and then was cast essentially into 65 episodes and was a very strong comedic talent. I noticed that when we did subsequent takes, with any take he was in, where we had to do generally for whatever reason a second or third take, he would create a variation on his first interpretation, and he would deliver the lines. He would be perfect on the blocking. Everything was right technically, but he might do a little different interpretation, a little different take on it, a little different wrinkle on it. And I remember the first few times I noticed it, I went up to him and I said, "It looks great. It works. It's great, but I'm curious why you're changing the scene a little bit." And he said, "Oh, that's just so it's fresh for me. That's just so it's fun to do it again." So, which is to me the sign of a very talented natural actor. And he's obviously, his career has gone on to prove that incredible skill. So,
do we have time for one more question? Really short.
Yeah. If Ian will forgive us.
It's just that in 2 or 3 lines, 20 years later, the world has changed a bit, and why do you think this show is still relevant to many viewers who have seen the show or who haven't seen the show?
Well, and I think that's a good segue into interviewing Ian, because Ian and I agreed as we developed and created this show together, collaborated on that it was universal issues that we were dealing with, not issues that were topical to 1990 or 92 that would be that might not be relevant 10 years later. And it was just because we felt that would reach the broadest audience. So whether it was fear of being embarrassed in front of peers, that everybody can identify with that forever. That doesn't go out. That doesn't get dated. Whether it's the shyness of your first romance, or is somebody noticing me? Am I alcoholism was dealt with, a tough subject, which is obviously in all kinds of machinations and variations. Substance abuse has not gone away. Divorce, we felt that was a very powerful, a very painful experience for a lot of kids. Well, 50% of the kids come from marriages that have to deal with that. So we tried to deal with universal issues that everybody could relate to. I think that's the answer.